Hello, it's the 18th of November. Welcome along to Renew Every Morning. I'm Paul Anderson-Walsh, and as always, I'm thrilled that you're with me. So thank you for taking the time to stop by. And if you're enjoying this teaching series, please subscribe, ring the bell. I think that's the phrase. Just let people know about it, because the more people we get talking about this, the bigger the conversation, the more we can just spread the love, which would be amazing. Well, now, yesterday I started on this second phase of this ascent to Mount Carmel, as I've called it. And I started talking to you yesterday about the relation phase. And yesterday we looked at this extraordinary statement that love is not self-seeking. And today I want to think about this idea of love is not easily provoked. Now, this is about love's freedom from reactivity, from being reactive. I think this is really, really important. You see, if you like, if self-seeking love is a kind of, it has a kind of possessive reflex, provocation is its defensive one. But here we need to own that. So remember, love is not self-seeking, and love is not easily provoked. So key statements. One, if the idea of self-seeking is about possession, provocation is about defensiveness, and love is immune from both. To be provoked is to take offense, to kind of internalize injury, and let another one's behavior just dictate our state of being. And this is something we need to live at a much more elevated level of consciousness about, because this is really important. Nobody can ruin your day. Not if you understand the basis of love. Agapé can't be provoked because it's already yielded its right to be offended. It's not invested in that. Its center of gravity lies elsewhere. It lies in stillness, and it lies in divine awareness. And so when another person makes you suffer, it's because that person suffers deeply within themselves. They don't need punishment. They need help. And God, this is so easy for me to share with you, but so hard for me to live out in front of you. But this I know to be true. Agapé's logic is to see hurtful behavior not as an attack, but as an expression of pain, and therefore to respond not with defense, but to respond with compassion. Unprovocable love is spacious love. It breathes before it reacts. It just takes a minute, it takes a beat. It listens before it answers. And it's emotionally non-stick, if you like. It's emotional Teflon in that sense. In psychological language, it's the fruit of secure attachment. In spiritual language, it's the evidence of union with the Father's peace. So to say love is unprovoked means that it has this ability to be the still point in the midst of a storm. Now, this is something that I so wish we could reach out and into and up for and into. I don't even know how I want to say this, but this is really, really important. Agapé is unprovocable. And I don't want to say it's not easily provoked. That's not doesn't take me far enough. It's unprovocable. Now, whenever I speak on the nature of God, people invariably find this characteristic maybe the biggest single stumbling block. The very notion to people that God cannot be provoked is almost blasphemous. Honestly, I can immediately anticipate the objections that you might even have about this. And I can find a number of Bible and biblical references to the Lord apparently being provoked. But it's interesting, again, we saw this with the word rude. It's interesting how dictionaries attempt to define the word provocation. Now, watch what it says. It's defined as a word, something that arouses a strong response from another. Now, how many of us have ever heard the expression? And those of you who are charismatics, I know very well that you'll know this expression way too well. Grieving the Spirit. Or have you ever heard anybody say something like, the Spirit is sensitive? Now, what do you suppose those statements mean? Well, I want to suggest to you that in the context of an eros God, or your egoic God, the God that you have created, or the God has been given to you, which is no God at all, they mean something radically different from what they mean in the paradigm of Agapé. You see, when I say someone is sensitive, I could mean one of two things. I could say, and they're opposites, by the way, I could say, oh, watch out, Paul is very sensitive about that sort of thing. And I mean that in a negative way. And with this statement, what you might think I'm saying, oh, Paul's touchy, he's very easily hurt, he's a bit brittle. You need to be careful around Paul and be careful to avoid certain subjects because he'll just blow up if you use those subjects around him. Now, that's an entirely valid way of using it. But what you're telling me is make sure you're on your best behavior with him, because he gets pissed off at this for no reason whatsoever. And as a result, you become cautious, you become disempowered, and you're very unlikely to be yourself around that person. But if I said to you, oh, Haley's very sensitive in the positive sense, perhaps now you might think to yourself, oh, hang on, that Haley will empathize with you and she would be a good person for me to talk about a certain subject to, because I could confide in him, I could be frank with him, I could be candid with him, knowing that I wouldn't be judged. And as a result, you'll be encouraged and empowered. Now, let me ask you, which of us has not believed, either consciously or unconsciously, that the Holy Spirit is sensitive in the negative sense of the word? That's what you've been taught. That's what I was taught. That's what I taught. But worse still, we've been taught that we can provoke him. And here's where it becomes really, really messy. Either to bless us or curse us. And so consequently, the church, who are authors and perpetrators and the sole beneficiaries of this lie, strive to keep up this deception. They want to keep it alive, and they want to keep us in fear of God so we can be under their control. Because in the Antichrist system, most of us is uncritically accepted as authentic. The clearest implication that is provocation. There's no doubt that provocation, like patience, has a max out point. That's what you've been taught. The bottom line is this: provocation means something which arouses action or activity, a readiness to retaliate at the slightest prodding. Now, the consequences of saying God is not provoked are seismic, because we're saying that Agapé is fixed in being other-centered. It cannot be moved or swayed or tossed to and fro. It's literally taken its stand, and there it remains. Now, I'm going to just push you a little bit further on this, if I may. It cannot be provoked. Now, if God cannot be provoked, you cannot, he cannot control you with the threat of punishment, and he cannot, and you cannot manipulate him to profit from him. Now, I say that because to be provocative can mean something else. And unfortunately, I am bound to say that a lot of the charismatic worship is designed to beguile and to be provocative. And we kind of have a kind of, a little bit of a kind of sexy prayer time and, erotic requesting time and all the rest of it. Because somehow we think we might be able to Delilah our way into God's favor, to Delilah our way into God's blessing. Well, in the same way that you can't provoke him such that he'll punish you, I have to let you know, you can't provoke him so he'll reward you. That's just not the nature of God. Love is unprovocable. Please get that into your head. Now, the question for me would be, do you feel liberated by the idea that God cannot be provoked by you, either positive or negatively? I hope you do, because it is such a key thing to land and a key thing to settle in your soul. If you'll just take that on and just walk with me about that, is the idea, if you can see that love is unprovocable, you are really living in truly, in the spaciousness of God. That's exactly what you're doing. But God cannot be provoked, because he has already given up his right to be offended. And I just want you to just hold on to that. And he doesn't need you to manipulate him with your cute little prayers and all the rest of it. And just for the reference, if you are getting that, remember this. Before I asked, he answered. All right, well, bless you, my friends, and I hope that's not a little bit too coarse for you, but it's an important thing to say. So if you are, again, if you're trying to Delilah your way into the favour of God, would you just please stop it? Just leave that alone, and know that you are already loved and beloved of God. All right, God bless you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.